We've been here before. Lunchtime on a cold Easter day and another emergency at the Capitol. A man in a blue car rams two US Capitol police officers near a barrier. As he gets out of his vehicle, knife in hand, he's shot and has now died. Immediately, Congress goes into lockdown. A helicopter's summoned and lands in front of the Capitol building. And the National Guard, which has been on duty since the Capitol riots of January the 6th, is mobilised. Another terrifying moment for those who work in the congressional offices. At a hastily organised news conference, confirmation that one of the police officers has died as well.
And it is with a very, very heavy heart that I announce one of our officers has succumbed to his injuries.
But the assailant doesn't seem to have been on anyone's radar screens, and police are saying there doesn't seem to be an ongoing threat.
It does not appear that he is known to the Capitol Police or the Metropolitan Police Department at this time.
Is this a terrorism-related?
Sir?
Is this a terrorism-related incident?
It does not appear to be terrorism-related, but obviously we'll continue to investigate to see if there's some type of nexus along those lines.
It was only a few days ago that some of the intense security around the Capitol following January's shocking assault was eased. Just a week ago, the driver wouldn't have been able to get as close to the building as he did. What's happened today may be totally unrelated to the events of January the 6th, but there's a terrible sense of déjà vu, a further heightening of the feeling of vulnerability. And once again, above America's august and imposing Capitol building, flags have been ordered to fly at half-staff.
Until April 6th in honor of Evans and the other injured officer who is in stable condition and his injuries said to be not life-threatening. Authorities say the attack appears to have no link to terrorism, identifying the suspect as 25-year-old Noah Green. His social media posts reference the Nation of Islam and its leader, Louis Farrakhan. He posted the quote, "end times," about how the last few years have been tough and the past few months tougher. The House and Senate are in recess, so the complex was far less busy than usual. But today's attack comes amid a debate among members over the heightened security measures put in place just after the insurrection. Lieutenant General Russell Honore, who reviewed Capitol security after the January 6th siege, says Congress needs to make changes quickly to prevent future attacks.
Surveillance cameras capture him driving into a parking garage and moments later walking in through the front door of Building 197. He's working there as a civilian contractor. There's no metal detector, no back check. We next see Alexis armed with the shotgun, peeking around corners, checking doors, looking for someone, anyone to ambush. He moves quickly down the stairs with purpose, eager. Look, he sees some people and ducks behind a wall. And today, the first official explanation of why.
Was a mentally unstable individual.
This shotgun is the primary murder weapon. On it, he etched a number of carvings, including "End to the Torment," "Better Off This Way," and "My ELF Weapon." Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves, something naval authorities knew about.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
And in his computer files, the FBI found this.
A document retrieved from the electronic media stated, quote, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this."
And so on what should have been a routine day, Alexis killed 12 people. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. Diane, they never had a chance, and still no answers as to why so many red flags were missed.
Footage has emerged of the car chase which spread panic in Washington and ended in gunfire. The female suspect was shot dead, and a 1-year-old girl in the vehicle has been taken into protective custody. It began when the black car attempted to breach security barriers at the White House before heading to Capitol Hill, where it crashed. Few details have emerged about the motive, though police appear to have ruled out terrorism.
All information we have right now is this does not appear to be in any way an accident. This was a lengthy pursuit. There were multiple vehicles that were rammed. There was officers that were struck, and 2 security perimeters that were attempted to be breached.
The 2 injured officers were taken to hospital and are said to be doing fine. Secret Service spokesman Ed Donovan said his staff acted appropriately. Officials have yet to confirm whether the suspect was armed. The Senate was in session as the shots were fired. A temporary lockdown was lifted just 1 hour after it was initiated. The incident happened just 2.4 kilometers from the Washington Navy Yard, where less than 3 weeks ago, a lone gunman killed 12 people.
The Secret Service?
That's exactly right. It was fall day, October 3rd. If you remember, the Capitol was already edgy because just a week or so before there had been the Navy Yard shooting. So everyone was a little bit jittery. At about exactly 2:13 p.m., Miriam Carey drives up to the one of the White House security checkpoints with her 13-month-old baby.
Let's get more now on Miriam Carey. ABC's Pierre Thomas has been examining where she came from and what might have triggered her snap. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, George. Today, police are dissecting the woman's life, urgently hunting for a clue, something that would tell them what led her to come to Washington.
Overnight, Miriam Carey's mother told ABC News her daughter had, quote, no history of violence, but confirms that she had struggled since the birth of her 1-year-old daughter in August of last year. She had postpartum depression after having the baby, her mother said. A few months later, she got sick. She was depressed. She was hospitalized. ABC News has learned Carey had an encounter with Stamford, Connecticut police in December, where she claimed she was under electronic surveillance by President Obama.
But there's no criminal history. No criminal history.
Family and friends are shocked.
She had a wonderful life. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Thursday night, police in hazmat suits surrounded an apartment building in Stamford, Connecticut. They were searching for computers, notes, anything that could point to motive.
We tested the air, we tested different products, and then we went in and secured some evidence.
Friends described Carey, who was born and raised in Brooklyn, as very professional and focused. She moved to Stamford, Connecticut because New York rents were so high, and they say Carey never expressed any sentiments about the government. Childhood friend Donald Knowles just saw Carey on Tuesday.
everything was okay, a little joke, and she went about her business. It's just...
Carrie's mother told us she didn't know why she was in Washington. Like us, the family has so many questions. Robin?
And we do know, according to a source, that the boyfriend had called police saying that she was delusional, that she thought President Obama was surveilling her electronically, and whether this is why she decided to go down to Washington, to the White House, all of that under investigation right now. But again, there were certain things that were...
This is our Western Edition. Good evening. It began as an ordinary school day, and it was almost over when gunfire erupted this afternoon. This deadly mass shooting happened in Parkland, Florida, about 20 miles northwest of Fort Lauderdale at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, attended by about 3,000 students. A suspect was taken into custody about a mile from the scene. We're going to have much more on him in just a moment. We do have extensive coverage tonight, beginning with Manuel Bojorquez in Parkland. We do caution you some of the video you're about to see is graphic. Manny?
That's right, Jeff, and a law enforcement source tells CBS News the gunman appears to have pulled the school's fire alarm to create chaos and then began firing. Those who could ran, hiding in classrooms, even closets, while the shooting continued.
After the carnage at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, after being arrested near the campus, a dejected Nicholas Cruz sits down with a police detective. "Kill me, just kill me," he says to himself as the officer leaves the room. The detective had asked Cruz if he would like some cold water. The barely audible 19-year-old responded, "I don't deserve it." Today, a Florida judge ruled a partially redacted version of the interview transcript could be released, offering the most disturbing picture yet of why Cruz may have opened fire, killing 17 people. We call BS! The mass shooting sparking nationwide debates about gun control and mental health. In the interview, Cruz tells the detective he'd heard an evil voice inside his head for 15 years. When asked, "What does it tell you to do?" Cruz responds, "Burn, kill, destroy." The detective speaks with Cruz about the death of his mother months earlier. Cruz says he doesn't suffer from depression, but says he took drugs. A lot. No one knew about it, he says, admitting that he took marijuana and Xanax and had tried to drink himself to death. Cruz's attorneys had wanted the transcript suppressed, saying its release could hurt his right to a fair trial. He faces the death penalty if convicted.
The voices tell you to hurt animals and start fires in the fire pit. You never told anybody. You never told your mom. You never told your brother. You told Zach about it. All right, now I asked you earlier what Zach's phone number was. Do you really remember it? All right, so let's talk about the last couple days. When was the last time you heard the voice?
Yesterday.
And what time was it yesterday?
It was at night.
Okay. And where were we at?
Work.
You were at work? So you're at Dollar Tree. And what's the voice telling you?
To hurt people.
To hurt people. Hurt people at Dollar Tree? Or hurt people?
Hurt people in general.
Okay. Doesn't say specifically who? Alright. So what happens? Do you hear the voice this morning or no? Okay, well, what's the voice saying this morning? Okay, let's talk about it. Did the voice didn't tell you to take Uber, right?
Yes, it did.
It did?
Yes.
The voice said take Uber.
Yes.
Did
the voice is in me.
You're the voice.
No, in here.
Okay, it's in your head.
Yes.
What is it? A male voice or a female voice?
Male.
Male. Can you tell how old the voice is?
My age.
Okay. Do you have a good voice too, or just a bad voice? Is there a voice inside you that says do good things? No.
It's always bad.
Can't be. You held down a job for 2 years. If you were doing things bad, you wouldn't be able to hold the job down for 2 years, right? Okay. I mean, look.
It's me and then my bad side.
I understand. Everybody's got a quote good and bad side. There's people.
No, it's a voice. The voice is in here, and that is me. It's just regular me. Just trying to be a good person.
Okay. But obviously, again, when you say it's a voice, it's you. It's all you. The voice is you as well.
Yeah.
The voice didn't force you to do anything, right?
No, the voice did. It's two voices.
Uh-huh.
There's one half that's the good and then the bad.
Yeah.
I moved back to Minneapolis in 2014 and linked back up with David. He was talking to me a lot about spiritualism. At this point, him and Kamel had converted, in a sense. They were no longer talking about Christianity. They were talking about and the resonance of the universe and transcendental philosophy and connecting to higher levels of consciousness. And whatever that was, David tapped into it.
It's just for us. It's August 29th. Ronnie came home with a fever, and you were connecting and playing.
Yeah, we were painting nails, and the door's right here to her room. I was sitting on the floor, and she was sitting facing me. And I had my back towards her bed. Mm. And then painting, and then we both felt something come through the door.
David never really got into a lot of details of what was going on with Kamel spiritually or what would actually take place. He would more propose questions of, so if a some kind of spiritual attack, what would that look like?
And then, okay, cool. And then as I'm going back to painting my nails, I know where her voice is because I've been talking to her, so a voice higher than that. So I just feel like the height was higher than where she was at the bed. No, you didn't like the song. I just froze. I'm like, Ronnie, did you say something? And just quiet. And I looked to see if she's awake or where it came from. She's like, what? No, I didn't say anything. I'm like, did you hear that? She's like, no, no, I didn't hear anything. And I came out and told you.
Want to know what I really think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think people lean on the supernatural when they can't understand things that they're experiencing and feeling. And it's easier to believe that they were being chased by some kind of metaphysical spirit than they were being chased by their own problems.
Who murdered his wife and daughter before taking his own life.
But the murder-suicide a year ago was far from cut and dry. Tonight, new and disturbing details we've never heard before. Tom Lydon of the Fox 9 Investigators has been given unprecedented access, and he's here to tell us what he's learned. And Tom, some of this will be very difficult to hear.
You know, some of it will be, but I think you're going to see that it's important at this point to really get all the facts out on the table. I think that's the most important thing here. For the last year, this case has become the subject of much speculation and plenty of theories on the internet, most of it completely wrong. The reality is the truth of what happened to David Crowley and his family is stranger and sadder than anyone imagined.
about how things were. And then I woke up here.
Apple Valley Police recently closed their exhaustive year-long investigation, and for the first time are sharing their findings with the Fox 9 investigators.
It looks like David snapped and took the lives of his wife and daughter, and then ultimately himself.
Who wrote Allah Akbar on the wall?
He did.
In her blood?
Yes.
Why did he do that?
We believe that was just kind of a parting shot.
David Crowley seemed like he was very specific in how he wanted to be perceived to the outside world. It was almost like David gave us this plot twist at the end of Allah Akbar. You know, this plot twist that wasn't going to have any resolution, but that people would continue talking about.
Who walks into a house and sees Allah Akbar written on a wall and goes, oh yeah, David Crowley, someone who is not a Muslim, all of a sudden now he's writing it, and that somehow proves that he's guilty?
David Crowley would not write Allah Akbar in his wife's blood on the wall and leave a Quran open. He never brought up that issue once.
So what does it mean?
I'm gonna make this video real quick because I want to show you something. See, that's a camera. That's a camera on the truck. So if there's a reason for you to slam the brakes on hard or something, then if you see it right there, that camera is watching me, right? But it only gets triggered by hard stops, or if somebody hits me, or if I hit a bump too hard, or if I'm going around a corner too fast. But the reason I'm showing you this is you see that light right there. You see it? When it fires off, it'll blink back and forth almost like fucking Knight Rider. But if you notice right here, there's also cameras. I mean, there's also lights right here and right here. And they're called infrared lights. You can't see them through the camera because every camera has what's called an infrared filter. It has an infrared filter on the lens so that way it doesn't pick up the infrared. Now this camera right there is open for infrared so that way it can pick up infrared. And the reason I'm showing you that is because that's just one of the light spectrums that you normally don't see in life. But if you take a camera, if you have an old camera, and you can look it up, how to take the infrared filter off of it, you take the infrared filter off of it, and you'd be surprised what goes on out here at night, what kind of lights are streaming through the air, and what vehicles are running infrared, and what is running infrared. And you know, it may not be substantial to you right now, but you'll find the more you know about things like this, you'll find the importance of why you should know that later on in the future, especially when it comes to things that could affect you. TV. Behind the screen are a row of LED lights. That's called a light emitting diode. See, and the screen itself is separate from the LEDs, and somehow it creates a pattern on the face screen, or whatever they call it, I don't know, but it creates like the color spectrum on it, separate from the LEDs, but the LEDs are behind it. They are called light emitting diode. And like I was saying about infrared, and you can't see infrared, but that doesn't mean that you're not being affected by infrared. So let's see here. I don't know if you see that light. Now when you look into your remote control, you see if you can see that light. So what happens if all this shit is connected to the Internet of Things?
Hi, I'm Emerald Robinson. In this What Is video, we're going to take a closer look at the electromagnetic spectrum. What we see as light is only a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum refers to the many types of radiation released from stars, including our own sun. Electromagnetic radiation travels in waves. Frequency describes how many waves per second a wavelength produces. Wavelength measures the length of an individual wave in meters. Scientists describe the electromagnetic spectrum as a long line. At one end lie radio waves, with the longest wavelengths and lowest frequencies in the spectrum. A single radio wave has the length of a football field. After radio waves come microwaves, which produce more energy due to shorter wavelengths and higher frequencies. Cell phones, radar, and microwave ovens use microwaves. Next comes infrared light. The sun, fire, living creatures, and other heat sources all produce infrared light. While we cannot see infrared light, we feel it as heat. Visible light occupies a narrow slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, nestled between infrared and ultraviolet light. Red wavelengths have the lowest frequencies and longest wavelengths of visible light. As you move from red through orange, yellow, green, blue, and finally violet, wavelengths shorten and frequencies increase. From visible violet light, we move into ultraviolet frequencies. Human skin produces vitamin D when exposed to ultraviolet light, but excessive ultraviolet light causes sunburns. Next, X-rays, which pass through soft tissue but not denser materials such as bone, making them valuable for medical tests. X-rays also have security applications such as airport baggage checks. Gamma rays produce even shorter wavelengths, higher frequencies, and more energy. In comparison to the football field-sized wavelengths of radio waves, gamma ray wavelengths are as small as atom nuclei.
As you've probably been told, light and sound are both waves. Light waves can be spread out like a light bulb or focused like a laser. But can you do the same for sound? Surprisingly, the answer is yes. And I'm going to show you how I built this device, and how you could build your own. So normally when sound travels, it disperses and spreads out like you'd expect. But this is actually dependent on the frequency. The higher the frequency, the more focused the beam is. I don't know why the math works out this way, but I just accept it. But the big issue is that the frequencies needed to get sound focused are actually in the ultrasound range, so it's beyond the range of human hearing. But there's this really weird physics glitch. Okay, it's not a glitch, but it's a weird property where when the frequency and amplitude are high enough, the air itself becomes a nonlinear medium and is able to demodulate a modulated waveform. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me either, but I'll link the Wikipedia article. But anyway, that aside, it means we can encode audible sounds by modulating them with an ultrasound carrier wave. This is actually exactly the same as how FM radio works, only the ultrasound frequencies are in the kilohertz instead of megahertz. And since individual ultrasonic speakers are pretty small and not very loud, I actually have a bunch of them connected in parallel. Designing a circuit for this was pretty straightforward. The audio comes in here with a simple high-pass filter to get rid of DC offset. That signal travels to a standard 555 timer to modulate a 40 kHz square wave. Finally, it's fed into an amplifier to drive the speaker array. It's powered by a 12-volt power supply for the speakers with a 5-volt regulator for the logic parts. So how well does it work? Really well. It's so hard to show in a video, though. You really have to be there.
The coffin of this theory that we had, that it was laser testing, very likely with drones. Now, we established that there were 4 basic uses of lasers in the military. There was, of course, offensive and defensive weaponry. Lasers are also used for communications. Lasers are also used for communications. They're used to hide aircraft from radar, and they are used to create a bubble of ionized air in front of an aircraft, allowing it to achieve much faster speeds. So speed, stealth, comms, and offensive, defensive weaponry. Those are the big four.
If we have frequencies, waves, in this case electrical, in our brain, can we stimulate these frequencies with other frequencies? So if I, in this case, if I look at this light that switch on and off with a certain frequency, I can induct my brain activity waves into a certain state of frequencies, and so I can modify. It's like taking drugs. I can modify what's going on in my brain. I can relax myself. I can do other things. Of course, this inspired not only big mans, but also, yeah, commercial applications. For example, this is a tool, so you listen to music according to the music. Oh, this is so annoying. Sorry. According to the music, they make you listen also a special frequency that drives your brain to go to a special state. But I don't know if anybody heard about this. It was 2 weeks ago. The Russian enabled their carrier with this beam. So basically, it's a light beam that brings people to vomit or to have nausea or to have hallucinations. It's just like it's a light, but the principle is the same. So instead of driving you to nice and relaxed mind state, it drives you to exactly the opposite.
Over the United States. I think this was a complete accident. I think they probably had been doing these tests for a long time, and they didn't think anybody would be looking at, from above, where they were using infrared detectors. And that's why this was picked up. This is long-wave infrared imagery here from the GO satellite, and this is shortwave infrared. So this might have been just an oops, given that the flashes are so instantaneous. It would take a very specific kind of technology to even see it. So that's why I think this is just a happy accident that this was picked up. People were staring at this, people were looking at this because of the hurricane. And this wouldn't have been picked up in just normal everyday radar technology. This is shortwave infrared imagery. Very specific kind of technology. And not everyone saw it. The only person who really saw it was the channel Dachintz. I hope I'm saying that right. Dachintz, something like that. He's the only one who saw it.
Is the government beaming subliminal microwave messages directly into your brain? No, they're not. But the technology to do so is shockingly real. Conspiracy theorists often call this V2K, or voice-to-skull messaging. Pad that out with typical conspiracy thinking, and you know exactly how this script reads. A shadowy agency busies itself beaming microwave signals into the brains of random individuals for the purposes of experimentation or some larger nefarious plot. There's no truth to this, of course. It's all a matter of auditory hallucinations, such as those associated with schizophrenia or delusional disorders or other mental maladies going on. V2K simply provides a tempting script for the addled mind to latch onto, in large part because there is some truth behind it. The microwave auditory effect is a reality. To refresh, microwaves are a form of electromagnetic radiation. Microwave technology allows us to heat a burrito and transmit wireless power, but it also allows us to induce the perception of sound in both hearing and deaf individuals. Neuroscientist Alan H. Frey published the first paper on this microwave auditory effect back in 1962. By this method, researchers were able to transmit the sound of a human voice into the heads of test subjects. The waves activated cochlear receptors in the same way normal hearing does. And so, what sounded like an electrically modulated voice, one which no one else could...
Pentagon scientists have finished testing on an early weapon that can make laser plasma balls talk.
Stop, or
or we will be forced to fire upon you.
It's called the laser-induced plasma effect, and it's made by the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate. So what they've done is basically created a laser that can shoot out to a certain distance, and they can pipe in sound waves through it, and actually make human voice sounds and commands.
Stop, or we will be forced to fire upon you.
Now where this becomes useful is around an area where you want to keep a perimeter secure. So essentially you can shoot out this laser, you can then talk to the people on the edge of the perimeter rather than sending troops out there and tell them to get away, or you're going to shoot, or get away, or they're going to use other means to deter them. And that same laser can be used to actually target the individual and create heat through pinpricks, like microscopic pinpricks in their skin, even beneath clothing. It's extremely uncomfortable and people move out of the way almost immediately. At the same time, the exact same laser is also being used as kind of a never-ending flashbang grenade. It can basically, with a power source, it can constantly create audible effects to deter and confuse and disorient people, just like a flashbang grenade that you would have in your kit, but would only be able to flash once, maybe twice, depending on the design.
Into another episode of the Creepy Tech Podcast. My name is Lydia Champole, and I'm so excited to share another interesting yet creepy tech that's changing not only the way that we behave, but also our perceptions on what we believe is real. This week, we are going to do a deep dive into directional audio spotlighting technology. And yeah, that's kind of a mouthful, but it's pretty interesting. So we're going to discuss what this tech is, how it's being used, and how it may affect us moving forward. Additionally, the moment when their new technology becomes available to the public, the set of regulations they must follow should also be made available to the public. As I stated earlier in this episode, directional audio spotlighting technology has been around since the early 2000s, and as expected, the internet and journalists were quick to begin reporting on this technology. The website Wired first covered audio spotlight technology in 2002. One of the articles I found briefly discusses the potential uses for this technology, some of which are light and normal and would improve on certain experiences, but one use in particular is much, much darker. In the article, the journalist John Garter writes, quote, "American technology is also working on a stronger version of the technology called directed stick radiator." American Technology is one of the top players in the audio industry. This company is now known as LRAD Corporation, as I mentioned earlier, and it's a company that began actively working on audio spotlighting technology, and quickly the government noticed, and they signed an agreement to develop this tech for the U.S. Army for quote-unquote non-commercial use. Since 2002, they began developing a means for psychological warfare. It's a commonly held belief that by the time the average individual begins hearing about any new and exciting technology, it's likely that that tech has already been around for at least a decade. The darkest part is that, of course, the use of this tech by governments can easily be justified in cases the companies manufacturing or using this technology crossing the line and taking away our rights to autonomy over our own bodies and decisions. If this technology becomes widely used, do we now have to start second-guessing which thoughts are our own, or if they're placed into our minds by companies like 7-Eleven or T-Mobile, which are two of the larger companies that are already using this technology in their stores? We must begin asking ourselves, what price tag do we put on our attention, or worse yet, our own sanity? And in the cases of our mental health and our financial decisions, can we really afford to take the chance by giving Holosonics and other companies making and using directional audio full unregulated control over us? I don't think I can, nor do I want to.
Oh my God.
It's not your imagination. Who's there? Who's there? It's not your imagination. Who's that? Who's there?
You know, okay, cool. And then as I'm going back to painting my nails, I know where her voice is because I've been talking to her, so a voice higher than that. So I just feel like the height was higher than where she was at the bed. No, you didn't like the song. I just froze. I'm like, Ronnie, did you say something? And just quiet. And I looked to see if she's awake or where it came from. She's like, what? No, I didn't say anything. I'm like,
Want to know what I really think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I think people...
It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there? What's It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there?
Sure is I had to get my girls to have a look.
It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there? It's not your imagination. What's that? Who's there?
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe